And we have Bria Garcia as well.
Hi, everyone. Nice to see you all. Welcome to NephCure's first annual IgAN Awareness Day Empowerment/Awareness Town Hall. I'm so excited to have all of you here. We had quite the response, so I'm really excited that we get to spread awareness today and share not only patient testimonials, but also a leading professional who has contributed so much to the field of RKD, Dr. Rastogi. And we're excited that not only will he share some tips as well as some insight and some overview of education, disease education regarding IgAN, but also share latest treatment options, as well as some questions that you all should ask for newly diagnosed patients when going to see your nephrologist. My name is Montrez Lucas. I probably should say that first, right, Becca? My name is Montrez Lucas. I am currently the Interim Director of Patient Engagement here at NephCure. I've been at NephCure for 2 years. So I'm officially 2 years old in October. And since that time, I have done patient navigation, where I've helped patients find various resources regarding insurance access, also assisting them with medication assistance, mental health and emotional support, genetic counseling, and ensuring they have access in general. So I'm so excited to have you all here. I'll start out first by introducing Dr. Rastogi, Chief of Nephrology at UCLA. He's newer to our NephCure family, but already he's like a cousin already. We've pulled him in. He's been helping us with our patients, regardless of the diagnosis. Him and his office at UCLA has really leaned in and really helped NephCure in so many ways with so many new patients, not only need specialists, but also disease education, second opinions. We are so excited to have you, Dr. Rastogi. Thank you for being here.
It's really my pleasure and privilege and an honor. And thank you so much. So first of all, I just want to say thank you to NephCure. I've been working with your team, as you know, for some time now, and I'm very impressed by the kind of care you've been providing and support, most important, especially for rare diseases, And I think these kind of gatherings are so important, where we share, is the rare disease. So, it's rare. So we don't have like diabetes people running around. So events like this, and I met Judy in where was that? Hawaii, Judy? Where was it? We had a meeting.
Yes, Hawaii.
Hawaii. So now, just my background, as was pointed out, I'm a nephrologist. I'm also a pharmacologist. I'm based out of UCLA Health. And we have a program at UCLA Health called the Core Kidney Program, CORE. And C stands for comprehensiveness. So, and we'll be discussing what comprehensive care is. Now, if there are any questions, please start putting them into the chat, because I do want to hear from all of you, but I'll just start off with what IgA nephropathy is. So IgA nephropathy is a rare disease, but I always say it's not rare if you have it, right? And I think that's an important point to keep in mind. Even though it's a rare disease, it's the most common type of glomerulonephritis that exists worldwide. So now the good thing is that it's a big area of focus, and a lot of research is being done, and a lot of new medications are coming out, which I'll be discussing today as well. But what is IgA nephropathy? Let's start with that. So the term IgA, so Ig stands for immunoglobulins. It's basically antibodies that we have when we say get COVID, or the vaccine, we check our immune response. So those are antibodies. IgA is one of the most common antibodies you have in your body. Now, what happens in IgA nephropathy is that there's an abnormal antibody. Things can get abnormal. And then the body mounts a response against that antibody because it wants to get rid of it. So there's an antibody against an antibody. And that's what we call immune complexes. So this becomes an autoimmune condition. And these immune complexes then deposit in the kidney, and they cause significant damage. Now, we don't have to go into all the ways it causes damage, but it's just important to keep in mind that it's an immune-mediated autoimmune condition. And one of the key things that it causes by causing damage to the glomerulus is protein in the urine. So the question comes up, how do we test for kidney disease? And it's simple, two things. A simple urine test and a simple blood test will identify patients who might have kidney injury. But, and this is an important thing for our audience to know, IgA nephropathy can only be diagnosed by a kidney biopsy. So the way it works is you go and see your provider, they see some blood in the urine, they see some protein in the urine, they might even be seeing your creatinine is elevated. Then the next step would be a kidney biopsy. So one take-home message for our team over here. If they, first of all, they should be, now I presume that a good portion of the people attending already have IgA nephropathy, or they have family members. So they are already tested. But if you haven't had a recent test, get your urine and blood test. It's a very simple test. So that's the first part. The second part is when you see protein or blood in the urine, you need to ask your provider, do I need any further testing for this? And for most of the patients in this condition, it will be a kidney biopsy. The kidney biopsy will show up, and then we assess the risk of progression. And the biggest thing, and this is important, the risk of progression, the most important thing we look at is protein in the urine. That is the overall best predictor of rapid progression. So when you have IgA nephropathy, you have to ask your doctor, be proactive. We like proactive patients. Being proactive provides better care. So read your labs and ask them a question, how much protein am I spilling and what can be done to, we want that protein. And that is also a moving target. You know, at times we say 1.5 grams of urine, and that's when we take, then 1 gram. And now we are finding out that even less than 500 milligrams of protein in the urine has negative prognostic indication or factors. So when you go to your providers, you should. The other thing that I want to mention, this is not just for IgA nephropathy. The reality is that the providers have set amount of time that they can spend with you. And that's not even set by them. That's set by their clinic managers. And they are set by 15 minutes time, 20 minutes time. Try to make the most out of those 20 minutes. Be ready with your labs. Be ready with your medications you're taking, right? Because you don't want to waste that time on going over your medication list. Have your medication list ready and just give it to them. This is my medication list. You should always keep with you an updated list. So that time that you have with your provider, whether it be an MD or whether it be an NP or the PA, whoever it is, try to focus on what is relevant. And what's most relevant for our IgA nephropathy patients is protein in the urine, and they should get their blood pressure under control. Those are two things. So those are the questions. And I think there were some questions or comments in the chat.
There's a question from an Emily Jane. I have recently, thank you, Emily, this is a great transition. She's recently diagnosed and had a kidney biopsy already. How does she know if she is in need of a second opinion, Dr. Rastogi?
Okay, that's a very good question. And let me put it this way. It's always good to question your provider.
Mm-hmm.
This is not disrespect. Guess what? It's your life, right? So never feel that, because we're changing now, but the physicians were over here. You don't question them. The patients are here, and this is the way communication goes, right? It should be like this. We're part of the same team, right? So ask them questions. That's number one. But what if your provider does not know the answers or doesn't even know? That's where the second opinion. So my question is going to be to Emily is, why does she feel like she needs a second opinion? If she can put that in the chat or speak up, because that will that I want to answer that portion.
Yeah, you all can put questions in the chat throughout, and then we will answer them as we get them. And also some of the questions that you may have, will be questions that may be answered by my questions to Dr. Rastogi as well. So please feel free to put questions in the chat. So that's what I was gonna so Dr. Rastogi, for someone newly diagnosed with IgAN, I heard you just say that you think that you advise that the patient is prepared. Most of those meetings are only 20 minutes.
Yeah.
If I'm newly diagnosed with IgAN, what are some critical questions that I should ask on my first visit?
So, you know, and this is probably going to loop into just my family. I do not know much about, so I'm trying to learn. So hopefully, Emily, you'll find this meeting useful. So the questions to ask, it's a rare disease, right? But it's not rare, and it's the most common. IgA is not as rare as we think it is. The first question to ask your provider is, how many IgA patients do you treat, right? Is it 1? Is it 5? Is it 10? Because experience is needed. That's number one. Number two is that ask them, what treatment options they are going to provide. And that's where meetings like this are important because, for example, if they don't know the most recent drug approvals, I think that is going to be a concern. And there are 3 drugs now that are on the market. There's Tarpeo, there's Filspari, and now just recently, Fabhalta was approved. So if they don't give you those options, that these are, ask them, should I be on these medications, right? Also ask them, what are you going to be looking for my prognosis? And if they don't mention proteinuria, right, then that's a concern. But if they mention proteinuria, ask what level, right? What level would they be concerned that they need further? So these are questions they should ask. Now, I always say, this is just my, it's always good to get a second opinion, for rare diseases. But the question comes up, who do you get a second opinion from?
Sure.
There are times that they will just go, the second opinion should be from a different practice, number one. It cannot be the same practice. That is not a second opinion, okay? You go to a different. The second thing is, if you're going to go to a second opinion, go to a program. Most of them are academic universities, but they're private practices who do a wonderful job too. But go to a program that actually is, IgA is their focus. Because if you go to another provider that has the same experience, you are not going to go anywhere. You'll be losing your time and money. So number one is always good to get a second opinion, but get the second opinion from the right person and go prepared. Go prepared with all these questions. Have your latest, and that's why these programs like NephCure are so important, because they will educate you to ask the right questions. Does that answer Emily's question?
I think so. And yeah, she said, yes, thank you. Another question we got real quick was, I was diagnosed, and Amy, that was Emily. I was diagnosed by renal biopsy in 2005, and I have had many 24-hour urines as well as blood and urine protein tests over the years. Recently, due to other issues, I sought the opinion of a rheumatologist and was told that my IgAN was in remission. Yeah. Can this disease be in remission?
Yes, it can be. And so IgA nephropathy is a very heterogeneous disease. So it comes and then can disappear. Some of them is intermittent. It comes, goes in remission by itself, comes back, goes in remission. And in some is slowly progressive. And the fourth one, in some patients, unfortunate ones, it can be very rapidly progressive. We can have vasculitis, rapidly progressive GNs. So it's very heterogeneous. It's not one. And in some patients, it will disappear completely. And that's why, the proteinuria is very important. So my question to was Amy, right? My question to Amy is, how much protein are you spilling in your urine? That will give us, and what is your eGFR? Those are the 2 questions that I would like to know. And now, There's also research being done on how much amount of blood you have in your urine that we call hematuria. So now we are looking at, is there a correlation between the degree of hematuria, blood in the urine? Now, keep in mind, when we think about blood in the urine, we think about peeing blood, right? That is called gross hematuria. There's also something called microscopic hematuria that you will never pick up unless you do your urine test, microscopy. So the other question would be that do you still have blood in your urine as measured by a microscopy? Are you still spilling protein? And if so, how much? And what is your kidney function measured by eGFR?
Another question that I was more than aware that probably would be prevalent is, can you give us just a general overview of those 3 medications, those recently approved medications for IgAN, those treatment options?
Absolutely. So the first one, the one that got approved was Tarpeo, which is butsonide. It is a targeted release steroid. Now, steroids have been used, oral steroids have been used for a very long time for IgA nephropathy. And they tend to work. The problem is the adverse events. And whoever is taking steroid, and they definitely should not be used long-term if possible. So before Tarpeo came out, that was one of the main treatments that was being used with a lot of adverse events. And sometimes, it wouldn't even help the condition. And then Tarpeo came along, and it was a very interesting pharmacology that in your gut, there are these Peyer's patches, they're the lymphoid tissue. So this drug will go and work in your gut, and then it will be absorbed, but it will be metabolized by the liver. So there's very systemic exposure to steroid. So much lesser, adverse events. And people have had great results being on this drug, and it's being used quite widely. So even though steroid, it is more targeted, timed, in the gut with minimal systemic. The other drug is Filspari.
Right.
And Filspari is a very interesting drug. Sparsentan is the name, and it is 2 drugs in one. It is what we call the ARB. It's like irbesartan, or let's just call it angiotensin receptor blocker. And then there's an endothelin antagonist, non-steroid, non-immunosuppressive. So that's the other. And there is a blood test that you have to do to monitor your liver. If you're pregnant or breastfeeding, you should not be taking that drug. So you also have to get the pregnancy test. But great results so far. A significant approval and that. And the third one that just got approved a couple of weeks ago is called Fabhalta, and that works on the alternative complement pathway, which is also a part of the immune system, more targeted than steroids. And the study that got its initial approval was the Applause study, and I am a principal investigator on that study as well. And significant benefits. You do have to be vaccinated for encapsulated bacteria. There is blood tests that you have to do on a regular basis. And even if you're vaccinated, you just have to be careful about the infection. So even in that, but based on the initial data that we have seen, very good adverse event profile and also, efficacy. But we have to keep in mind with every Tarpeo, it is still a steroid. With endothelin antagonists, there could be some other adverse events, including they have to be. And then so no drug is free of adverse events. At the end, it's the benefit versus the risk, and that has to be balenced.
Thank you, Dr. Stone. I want to point out, I think this is important for our patient population to know, in RKD in general. Each individual responds to differently sometimes. So there may not be, just because a drug may work for one person and didn't work for you, it may not work for you, and vice versa. So I want to make sure that we keep that in mind. That's something I get a lot in the support groups that we run monthly. Also, I want to ensure that at the end of this, if you have questions, there will be a slide with my contact information on it, with my email address, and I will contact you back and ensure that your questions are answered. even at the end of this. So please know that if you don't get your questions out during this town hall, they will be answered if you email me. I'll go ahead and put my email address in the chat now. So if you do have any questions that you feel like are more in depth or more personal, you can always reach out to me, mlucas@nephcure.org. And it'll also be, at the end of this, there will also be a slide with my name as well as my email on it as well. Before we move on though, first of all, happy IgAN Awareness Day to everyone who's joined. Look at our cute green shirts here at NephCure. You too can have one. But I so want to say, once again, we had some people join in the last few minutes. I think we're up to like 40 people already. So I want to say thank you to everyone who's joined, but also happy IgAN Awareness Day and Empowerment Day. We look forward to really providing a lot of information, both from Dr. Rastogi, our expert, as well as from Judy, her personal experience as an IgAN patient, and Becca and Bria, mom and daughter IgAN patient as well. Question though, before we move on, Dr. Rastogi, Janice had a question, and her question is, what should I be looking for on my labs that I may need something more than lisinopril? She's saying she initially was diagnosed and she was only prescribed lisinopril.
Yeah, so I think I was looking at that question as well, and I think that's a very important question. So I know there's limited time, so I'm not going to go too much, but there are a couple of things that I do want to mention. The importance of lifestyle, right? Eating well, not smoking. If you smoke, please quit. That's the worst thing you can do for your kidneys, and hydration. But after that, we go into pharmacotherapy, and lisinopril is a class of drug called ACE inhibitors. There's also ARBs like valsartan. You should get on those and get to the maximum dose tolerated for that. Then we add drugs like Farxiga and Jardiance, which are SGLT2 inhibitors. That's a second line of drugs that we add on that. Question came about remission. Normally, we would define that if your protein becomes completely normal, so less than 0.3 grams. That's what we are looking for. So if you have anything above that, then you still have residual kidney, the IgA and proteinuria. So try to get your protein in the urine within normal limits. And now we have, but you start with drug like lisinopril and that class, maximize that, add in SGLT2 inhibitors. But now we are also, more evidence is coming in that we go straight with these new drugs as well. But that's evolving over time. But look at your protein in your urine. That is very important.
Let's quickly do two more, Dr. Rastogi. One question that I see, lisinopril is what class of drug, and what was the other? Lisinopril is what class of drug, and what was the other?
Yeah. So let me put that in the
chat.
Yeah. Everyone. So let me put that. So lisinopril belongs to something that we call ACE inhibitors. That's the one. And then there's another one called ARBs. So either one of them, they belong to a bigger class of drugs called RAS inhibitors. So you should be on either an ACE inhibitor or an ARB. The next one is called SGLT2 inhibitors. And the drugs in this class is, you probably see the ad on TV all the time, either called Farxiga or Jardiance. Those are the two drugs to that. So these two classes of drugs, we put almost all our patients on. That's just it. And then obviously, as we progress, we get to the other class of drug, and then you talk to your provider and find out which one is best.
Okay. Thank you so much. And like I said, you all, if you have any questions, feel free to email them to me. I will ensure they are answered usually within 24 hours. I will make sure that I bother whatever NephCure specialist, including Dr. Rastogi, to get answers for them. Lastly, Amy did ask, what is your opinion on correcting gut health in regards to any autoimmune disorder?
Gut health, you said?
Yes. What is your opinion on correcting gut health in regards to any autoimmune disorder?
That's an evolving field. I think that's another great question, the gut microbiome, because if you look at IgA nephropathy, IgA is an antibody. It fights infection, especially in the gut. And a lot of patients get IgA after infections. So the answer is yes, but we don't know what we need to do. The best thing, in my opinion, is to keep your gut microbiome as normal as possible, avoiding unnecessary antibiotics, eating a healthy diet, not too much the Western diet. So whatever you can do, but at this point, it's just a supportive role, if any. But an abnormal gut microbiome can definitely be causing some issues.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Yep.
Great, Amy. I'm glad that you all are receiving so much out of it. I'm very excited. I'm so glad we're so interactive. And so you have so many questions. So I want to go on to introduce our two amazing patient families. First and foremost, Miss Judy, who's been a vet. Judy Aiken has been part of our NephCure family for quite some time here at NephCure. She has really helped us not only spread awareness, but those newly diagnosed patients. She's been a key figure in those IgAN patients, feeling like they can be empowered and activated as she has become. And then also you have Becca and Bria. Becca, patient mom, and Bria, who's the patient. Bria, what are you, 14 now? 13, 14 now?
Sorry, our internet just went out. Can you repeat that?
I just introduced you. I'm also, by the way, Southeast, we're in the middle of a hurricane. So if we go out, don't worry, we'll be back. But Becca and Bria, who are in New Mexico, Becca, the mom, and Bria, the patient. Bria, how old are you now?
I'm 14.
14 years old, IgAN patient who's amazing and who's very resilient, continues to shine, and we're very excited to have her join us so she can discuss her path. And Judy, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Okay, great.
The camera's just frozen.
It's okay. And Judy,
Okay.
Judy's in Hawaii. How do you say it, Judy? I love how you say it.
Hawaii. So you pronounce the W like a V.
Hawaii. Okay. Judy's in Hawaii, and she's been a patient advocate forever and has been she was actually able to meet Becca and Bria at our patient summit in San Diego, right, you guys? Yeah. So I want to start out by asking Becca and Bria to give just an overview of when they were diagnosed and how Bria was diagnosed.
You want to do that? I'll help her. She pauses.
No, you're fine.
You go ahead.
You can just tell me Bria, when were you diagnosed, and how did that come about? How did you get diagnosed?
I was diagnosed when she was 10. Yeah, when I was 10. And it had first started with HSP, which is like a rash all over my body, like raised red bumps. So I went to the ER, and they had then told me that they had diagnosed me with HSP, and everything started to get worse and go downhill from there. So they had tested my urine and saw that there was a lot of blood and protein spillage. So we went to see a nephrologist, and they then prescribed me on prednisone, very heavy dose. And then she went into remission, but I just didn't want to leave her. And this year, she started PD dialysis at home. So her kidneys obviously are needing the support, and we're pretty like nervous hearing those words, like you're going to be on dialysis. It's like something you don't want to hear as a patient. And I thought that this disease was going to be manageable, and she would be able to like live a normal life and do normal things as a kid. And this journey has been quite the roller coaster for her.
and our family. But like Mantra said, she's super resilient, and we just adapt to everything. And finding NephCure, honestly, like everyone who's in here, being at these meets and forums, and if you have the chance to go to the summits and meet the patients, meet the doctors, the people that are involved just are so helpful and so informative. Makes you feel like you're not having to do it alone. You know, you feel a little bit more confident going to your doctor, being able to say, hey, like, I've read about this, I've heard about this, advocating for yourself, advocating for your children, just knowing that your voice is so loud. You just need to use it and come to these events and meet people and ask.
Thank you so much. And we're so happy to have you. I mean, you're like part of our family now. You know that. So we're so happy to have you and Bria. Bria, being 14 years old, how has this impacted you as far as school goes? I mean, to both of y'all, how has this impacted Bria as far as school goes, and socially, how has it impacted you?
Well, for school, it's kind of hard, because there's days that I'm not feeling that great and I just want to put my head down and take a nap. So that's something that's really hard for school wise. Socially, it is kind of hard to tell people like I have a kidney disease, I'm on dialysis, like, because not many people do know what it is, and it's like hard to explain to someone who doesn't know
Mm-hmm.
what someone else with rare kidney disease is going through. I usually tell people that I'm really close with, but I try to avoid it with most people. So
I also think it's super hard because any person who's fighting a rare kidney disease, obviously my daughter looks normal, she looks healthy, she has her hair, she has,
Mm-hmm.
everything that would make her look like a healthy child. But IgAN is so unique, and it's, very fatiguing. There's times where she just doesn't feel good, and there's pain from medication that she's taken at times, and we just have to adapt with it. And it's hard for other people to understand that she is battling a rare kidney disease, and she is having days where she just doesn't feel good.
Sure.
Them seeing that, well, you look healthy, you look normal, like, what's wrong with you? And I think that's the hardest part for her.
Recording in progress.
Shoot, that's me.
You're okay. You're okay. Life happens. Um, yeah, I think too, it's very important that there's so many people who are diagnosed. IgAN tends to be, I've heard it recently described as such a young person's disease. We see a lot of patients that are school aged, as well as patients that are young adults who are still in the work field. Becca and Bria, I know this has impacted school accommodations. How has this impacted school when it comes to those accommodations?
Sorry, I think we're having a internet funk thing. Can you repeat that question?
School accommodations is something that you all probably have faced, that a lot of our young patients face, whether it's IgAN or any other rare kidney disease. How has that impacted your journey with IgAN, the school, having to have school accommodations?
Gosh, I didn't know that the school accommodations was going to be such a headache. And I'm going to thank you firsthand. Like, the past 2 years, Bria was in the hospital, due to her disease, and getting sick when you're on immunosuppressants, it really just knocks her on her butt. And not knowing how impactful a 504 plan can be
Mm-hmm.
to your child, or even your adult child in college,
Mm-hmm.
not knowing that that people have this in place as like a backbone, has really been a game changer for us, you know, and even it's like little things like accommodating her for lunch because, like Doc said, you know, adhering to a healthy lifestyle and making sure that there's food available that can accommodate her chronic disease, you know, being able to say, hey, she needs to have that option just like any other child. You know, having the 504 plan has been super helpful, and having you and your knowledge as a social worker.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you
We live
you
in
made
New
a great social
Mexico,
worker.
and I'm gonna speak firsthand here in New Mexico. We're a really big state here, and we have 3 pediatric nephrologists for the
Mhm.
whole entire state. So you can easily get lost and you can easily
Sure.
fall through the cracks. And I don't think I would have learned as much about how impactful a 504 in place can be for your child if it wasn't for coming to these NephCure meetings and listening to other parents and listening to other people who have this disease and have had it their whole lives, saying, hey, like, no, this is an option for you. Speak up, say you want this. Stand up and advocate for yourself has been a huge game changer for me and her.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I think that that helps us transition to Madeline, who shared in the chat. My daughter started with HSP2. Bria, you're the first one I've met with the same origin. No genetic link. I'm sorry for your journey. So glad to know you. My daughter started PD in February, was in hemodialysis before. Today I found out I'm her match for transplant.
That's awesome. Oh, I just
I'd
got
love to connect. I know, right? I'd love to connect more if you're open. Sure, Madeline, just reach out. You can reach out to me and I'll coordinate with you and Becca and Bria. Please email me and I'll be sure to connect you too. Thank you so much, Madeline. You all feel free to put comments or questions for them in the chat as well. Judy,
Hey,
one
you know
question.
what? This was like super crazy. We thought it was like a tummy bug when she got sick. And they were like, oh, this is gonna go away in 4 weeks.
I didn't know
And
that.
here we are 4 years later, longest 4 weeks of our life. But we're here and you
And you're
know,
making an impact. You're making such an impact. Every time you share, it makes such an impact, as you can see. Same origin story and everything. So those 4 weeks have been elongated. Sorry, Bria, but they have helped a lot of other kids and adults. So thank you so much for sticking in there with us. Judy, who, like I said, is in Hawaii. Look at me, I did it, I think. She has been an advocate for NephCure for so long, a veteran at this IgAN patient for so long. Judy, I want to ask you a unique question, and that's before we start out with your origin story, I would love to focus on what are some questions that you think that patients should ask their healthcare providers when they're newly diagnosed, and what are some questions that you wish healthcare providers would ask patients?
I think the first thing that patients really need to ask is sorry, hold on one second. Decline. The first thing that my son's calling me, sorry. The first thing that patients need to ask doctors is really to explain it to them in a way that they can understand. I think when you read the description of IgA nephropathy, if you don't even understand what the hemoglobin A is, it's really hard to grasp what it is, what causes it, how it causes. I mean, I've often joked about writing a children's book because I know a lot of kids are, diagnosed with IgA nephropathy. But I think writing it in a children's book form may even help adults because it is a complex disease. It's a very complex. So I think just having them have that conversation with you that is on layman's terms and not very much medical terms really would be helpful to a lot of patients. because especially when you're diagnosed and you are given that information, it's very, you're not comprehending a lot of the information that's coming in. So if it's coming in terms that you don't understand, it's going to go right over your head.
Sure.
That is probably one of the first things. The other thing is, what can I do to find support?
Mm-hmm.
For me, when I was diagnosed, I live in an island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. I've never heard of this disease before. My nephrologist, who is, he has a few patients, so he is versed in it. He does understand it. But in Hawaii, IgA nephropathy is not our big problem, and I think that's most places. IgA nephropathy is not going to be your nephrologist's main concern. Here, my nephrologist is overwhelmed with kidney disease caused by diabetes because we have such a high level number of diabetes patients. So a lot of his attention and other nephrologists here in Hawaii focus a lot on diabetes.
Mm-hmm. You are so
In
right.
fact, yeah. So knowing, and that's going back to, asking your doctor, hey, what do you know about IgA nephropathy? How much experience do you have working with IgA nephropathy?
Mm-hmm.
Are you open to me taking the lead and finding out information about IgA nephropathy and doing my own research? Those are things that you definitely want to talk to your doctor about. And if you do not have a doctor that's going to let you do that, and you have a doctor that's not going to let you advocate for yourself, find another doctor. I will preach that from the top of the mountain. Find
Amen,
a medical
Judy.
team that will allow you to advocate for yourself. I mean, I spend probably 95% of my medical life advocating and making sure that my doctors are hearing me, hearing my needs, hearing my wants, and making sure that we're all on the same page and that I am the boss and they work for me.
Mm-hmm. I think that I've always said it was a marriage between patient and doctor, and divorce is
Yes.
okay sometimes.
Yeah,
Divorce is
divorce
okay
is
sometimes.
fine.
We don't want to preach
Divorce is fine.
divorce in general, but it's
You know?
okay sometimes when it's not working out between you and that doctor. Or second opinions. I think you
Yep.
and Dr. Soji really touched on the same things. In what ways has being diagnosed, especially so young, Judy? You're still really young. How has
No, I'm not.
you
But
are, you
okay.
so are. How has this affected your life, day-to-day life, being diagnosed with IgAN?
It's extremely challenging. I will put a perfect example. I mean, so right now, my IgA nephropathy is considered remission. My doctor said that very loosely. He's like, he actually said, I don't really like saying that you're in remission because it could change tomorrow. And so right now, that's where I'm at. But I still can feel when my body has been pushed or I've been eating things that I shouldn't be eating, which I've been doing a lot more lately, which is not okay. I can feel my body. I can feel it in my body. My back starts hurting. Everything just starts kind of not feeling better. I start noticing little signs in my urine.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not leaking a ton of protein. So that's not the issue. It's just, I can tell that I still I'm having issues because of how my body's feeling. And I have been dealing with a lot of family stuff lately.
Sure.
And the last 3 days I've been going. And so I actually had a moment today where I got to sit down on the couch and I looked at my husband. I was like, I don't feel good. I'm like, I have a headache. I have a stomach ache. I am not feeling good. And it affects a lot. It reminds me that I cannot push myself the way I used to. I used to work in a very physical, very demanding, high stress management position at a hotel, and there's no way I could go back to that now. I just don't think that my body would let me.
Sure.
It also limits what I can do with my family, specifically my son. That has been the hardest thing. Yes. You're gonna make me cry, aren't you?
I feel like I
My
always do. I'm sorry.
son, my son is probably the biggest, like the effects that my disease has had on my child is probably my biggest regret of being a mom. And a lot of it isn't even the illness as much as it was the treatments.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to bring up the P word, prednisone, the beast. When you're put on that high doses of steroids, it affects everything in your body, not just physical, it affects mental. And those mental moments affect everybody in your family, not just you. And when you have a 6-year-old who doesn't understand why all of a sudden mommy's really mean and mommy's yelling and mommy can't keep her cool,
Yeah,
it's really hard to explain to a child of that age, this is not me.
sure.
This isn't, I'm not this person. This is just things are going on in my body that I can't control right now. And it also means that mommy can't go hiking with him and can't do these things that we used to do. I mean, me and him used to go, 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 super active. We were hiking almost every day a week. We were doing a lot of stuff, going to the beach. And I don't feel comfortable doing any of that anymore for multiple reasons. I mean, I would never want to put myself in a position where I'm at the top of a ridge and I'm like, hey, I can't make it down, call a helicopter. I'm not
Yeah,
going to do
yeah,
that. I know my limits. I know what I can do, but it has really affected what kinds of stuff I do with my son. And we have found new things. It's just,
mhm.
he's getting to the age now where those things are kind of like, no, mom, that's not cool. I don't want to do that anymore. So now we're trying to reevaluate what we're doing because he's now a tween. And yeah, that's a whole nother mess. So
So, something, may sound like an odd question, but in many ways, over my time working with RKD patients and working with and renal patients in general, especially with rare kidney disease, there are good aspects of being diagnosed, like finding community. In what ways has being diagnosed and finding and engaging in treatment, and maybe even a different lifestyle, how have those things impacted your life positively?
well, I think one of the big things about being diagnosed with IgA nephropathy really allowed me to reevaluate everything
Mm,
and really allowed me to look at my life and go, okay, I have these things in my life that I don't love. I actually was working a job that I didn't love.
mm-hmm.
So there was a lot of things about my life when I got sick that I was really just kind of like, this is my opportunity to change things. And it allowed me to start a new chapter that has actually made me feel more fulfilled than I have in any career path I was ever in. Just by being able to share my story and connecting with other people. And on top of that, outside of the connecting with other people, connecting with organizations that are there to
Yeah.
support patients. I mean, for me, that's the hugest thing. When I get an opportunity to work with an organization that works so well with patients and is there to 100% support the patients, I will give them my all because those are the groups that we need. We need groups like NephCure to kind of go to and to direct people to when they are newly diagnosed, because I'm just one person, but if you go to NephCure, you're going to find a whole community. You're going to find Ohana is the word for family in Hawaii, if you've watched Lilo and Stitch. And it's true. It's like Ohana has its own feeling in itself because you don't have to be blood related. You don't have to be, your brother, your sister. Ohana is the family you create.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a huge Ohana. I mean, I have a whole group of IgA nephropathy patients and caregivers out there that if I'm having a hard time
For
or
sure.
I'm in like a point where I am feeling challenged, and it doesn't even matter if it's about IgA nephropathy or not, they're my cheerleaders. They're my cheerleaders. Those are the people that I turn to
For sure.
because I've always said that once you get diagnosed with a rare disease, a chronic illness, nobody in your life is going to get it because you don't get it until you get it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's with everything like this. You're not really going to understand it until you are actually in the heat of it going through it. And I mean, that even, I'm a strong advocate for caregivers, but even sometimes caregivers don't quite understand it.
For sure.
Because they don't know. They've never been through anything like this. And if you haven't been through, you don't know what it feels like in your body. You don't know what it feels like to, okay, I use this example. This is my favorite example. When you, before you get sick, you can go to a restaurant, you can look at a menu, you can order anything on that menu. You get a chronic illness, that changes. Because now you have to eat for your illness. Or you need to eat based on your labs or whatever what you use to determine what kind of food you should be eating, that is now your guide. And so if you go into a restaurant, it's challenging and it's isolating, and nobody at that table is going to understand what it feels like to look at a menu and not have one thing on that menu that you can eat. But you so want to be there because your friends, your family, your loved one, whoever is there, and you want to be there with them. But so you're sitting there with your whole family, but you're also feeling isolated at the same time because they get to eat whatever they want and you don't get to.
It changes, what I've noticed, what so many patients, it changes the most simplistic things that maybe once took for granted, that we take for granted. People with typically in high functioning kidneys take for granted, who aren't diagnosed with renal disease in general, but also RKD. For Becca and Bria, my question, I mean, at only 14, what's your biggest hope for yourself as a 14-year-old with IgAN?
Usually I like to joke a lot, even though it's not a great coping mechanism. I like to joke about it.
Sure.
Yeah.
You think that helps with coping with having IgAN?
I think it helps for me. I mean, everybody has their own preferences. I think it helps for me because it kind of lifts more of the weight off my shoulders. It's like, it's not so bad.
Yeah.
I can make a joke.
I think a lot of us cope like that, especially with everything, but especially something like this. Becca, what's your biggest hope for Bria?
My biggest hope for her is that she gets to find her inner voice and help others who maybe aren't feeling so confident going through the same journey that she's going through. I'm so proud of her, like her goals for herself is really sweet. She wants to become a peds specialty nurse and work with kids who are struggling with chronic illnesses
That's
and help the
amazing.
world. And it just gets me like so choked up because like I want to see her fulfill all her dreams and wishes that she aspires to be, and know that like she didn't get to pick what disease she got. You know, it chose her, and she's just learning how to find and navigate her life moving forward. And sharing her story I think has been super therapeutic for us as a family. So yeah, those are my hopes and dreams for her. She keeps sharing her story.
Thank you. And we'll help Bria do that at Bria's pace. We'll definitely help you do that as you are prepared to.
Hey,
Matt,
last year we weren't here on Zoom.
oh, I
Remember?
know. Don't you know?
And
I
like
know. I
this
know you
is
come a long
like
way.
everyone watching, last year Bria was not about getting on Zoom. So I'm proud of her for sitting here today and like sharing her story and being excited to share her story. This is a huge step for us.
Yeah, I think that pacing and it almost helps, and having Bria share at her own pace, I think it's great, especially for all the young people diagnosed with IgAN that's watching, that will watch the recorded version, that are within NephCure, that are not yet joined to our family. I think it's important we highlight people like Bria and can advocate their own time. Madeline also, speaking of Bria sharing, Madeline says, my daughter is 6, so she has trouble explaining what's going on in her body. Does the food taste different? Diet is so hard with her. Bria, what's your opinion on that?
Um, well, diet was really, really hard for me. It was a lot of chicken, a lot of rice. So I don't know if it's just me, but I hate the way chicken tastes now. I cannot eat it at all. I hate it so much. But when I was on a diet, like when I was really restricted, nothing was really different, but it was kind of just hard because it was the things I didn't want to eat. So
Yeah, and trying as a parent to like excite your kid about eating vegetables, like green vegetables. Absolutely not with this child. We are a Hispanic family. We love tortillas, we love beans, we love potatoes. Those are all the things that a person with kidney disease cannot eat.
For
So
sure.
it changed our lifestyle like crazy. Having a dietitian who like keeps us in check and giving us forms like low potassium foods, low sodium foods, you know, having fresh fruit cut and easily available for her has been really cool. I will say that right now as a family, we don't eat a lot of salt, and that has been like a game changer for us because now we go somewhere and things are just so salty.
Mm.
So super, super. And look at that. My daughter says the same thing about chicken. Oh, poor thing. I know. And we've even tried like cutting it up, doing different styles. It's not like we just like boil the breasts. Like we've done it a gazillion different ways. And just
And
trying new foods has been cool and exciting.
well, a message to Bria too from Amanda Skeens. Hi, Amanda. She says to Bria, keep your sense of humor and never let this disease define you as a person. Stay positive, and you're doing a great job advocating for yourself. Thank you so. Thank you so much. Thanks so much, Amanda. I know that we went over a little bit. Before we all conclude, I want to share something with the group. There's NORD, our friends at NORD have at the National Organization for Rare Disorders, they have a great new program for patients with rare kidney disease, with IgAN, and it assists with premium copay and medical assistance. This program, it is financially based. Basically, you apply through NORD. I'll have a QR code up soon for you to apply, but it basically offers eligible individuals diagnosed with IgAN financial support to pay for out-of-pocket healthcare costs that are directly related to the care and treatment of this diagnosis. This is a new program. They are accepting patients, and it's very important that our community, especially the IgAN community, applies for these kind of programs to keep them around and keep them funded. I've seen anything from them paying for labs to get done, or insurance co-pays, or even sometimes medical equipment. As long as the medical needs are linked to your IgAN diagnosis and you qualify for this, you can get help. And I do advise that everyone applies that can. The email address is here. I will highlight this and copy and paste that into the chat. But also, more importantly, there's gonna be a QR code. So anybody who wants to do a screenshot or use their iPhones or Androids to scan it, you can scan this. I will show you the QR code in a second so you can get this. So it helps in so many ways. I've sent so many patients through this program, and it's really helped. You do have to show some financial need, but I will say that I don't want to say it's liberal, but it's not as strict as most programs when it comes to financial assistance. What kind of assistance can you request from NORD? Insurance, health insurance premiums, deductibles, and copayments, medical office visit or consult, out-of-pocket costs for medications prescribed by your physician to manage your IgAN diagnosis, out-of-pocket costs for lab services or diagnostic services, physician prescribe supportive therapies such as nutritional costs, urological related medical supplies, travel related expenses for IgAN related medical appointments. Big deal. So I really, I'm like a used car salesman when it comes to this program. I really want our IgAN patients to really embrace this. Also, I want to share, like as promised, let me share the actual slide that shows how to access this. Sorry, 1 minute. Swarna, if you email me, I'll be sure to help you. I'll send you'll see my email here. I did think of a financial assistance program that I think that would help. Let me share the screen again. Can you all see that? So this is the QR code here. My email is here at the bottom. So if you can email me for any questions, not just this, but also regarding any assistance you may need, from insurance assistance you may need, financial assistance, genetic counseling, access, regardless of your diagnosis, if you know somebody with RKD, or needs, or you're afraid you may have the wrong diagnosis. We have a network of NephCure specialists that are international that we can link you to help you with second opinions, physician referrals in general. If you're having problems with accessing medication and paying your premiums or any insurance headaches, appeals, denials, whatever, please reach out to me, mlucas@nephcure.org. And also, that's the link to that PDF I just I just showed you all. So please feel free to scan this, screenshot this. We would love for you to apply. If you need assistance applying, please feel free to reach out to me as well. mlucas@nephcure.org. Oh, thanks, Marissa. I'm glad you got this QR code. Second PD machine for divorced parents with IgAN kiddo. Madeline, maybe. I think we should apply. You reach out to me and I'll fight for you to get that PD machine. So feel free to reach out to me. Once again, that's my email. If you didn't get the QR code, if you have any questions about tonight's I'm gonna say program, like we're running a tele show. But if you have any questions about anything, please email me at mlucas@nephcure.org. Thank you all for joining. Thank you, Becca and Bria. Welcome to advocacy. Thank you so much for everything you do. And Judy, as always, a friend of us and who's committed so much to us and unparalleled dedication to advocacy. Thank you so much, Judy, for all that you've done for NephCure and for everyone else. If you have any questions, you all, please feel free to reach out. This has been amazing. The recording will be posted on all of our socials as well as our website. Have a good night, all.